you got multiple procedures. Tell us what happened, where you are, and where you're going.
To make a long story short, ultimately, it started with a meniscus tear. Basically started on the Lakers when I tore it the first time. Tore it a couple more times to a point to where there was no more meniscus left and bone on bone was rubbing. So the cartilage was gone and the bone was messed up. So I had to get new meniscus from a donor. I had to get a bone allograft and I had to get some new cartilage put in as well. All that, healed up and now I'm back on the court now.
Okay, what a blessing.
From being a high school sensation to being one of the most remarkable young prospects we have ever seen, being viewed as the prototypical Steph Curry with a 40-inch vertical who has the passing ability of a Magic Johnson, to be the second overall pick by the Los Angeles Lakers in the 2017 draft. You come into this storied franchise with all the pressure in the world to be not only the face of this franchise, but the face of the whole league, only to just fall over in your rookie year. And despite you getting better in your second year, you're still falling short to expectations. In just your third year, get traded to the New Orleans Pelicans, where you have a clean slate and become a very valuable player and eventually play at your best with the Chicago Bulls, only to suffer a season-ending knee injury that is not only career-altering, but career-ending, and eventually had your last stop at Cleveland and ended your time there getting waived. This is the tragic story of Lonzo Ball. This is the guy who was once viewed as a highly anticipated and extremely hyped point guard prospect to now out of the league at the young age of 28. So in this video, I'm going to dive deep into one of the saddest careers I've ever covered in this channel. But first, A-Man, say man, this is the A-Man Show, back at it again for more content. Make sure y'all subscribe. I post NBA content. My goal is to hit 1,000 subs by the end of the year. So subscribing and turning on post notifications and smashing the like button on the video makes a big difference. That out of the way, stay tuned and enjoy the video. Lonzo Ball, out of the three brothers, was for sure faced the most pressure to succeed in the family. Of course, having a father like LeVar Ball didn't help either. Before he got to the league, as y'all know, Zoe was the best point guard prospect in his high school class back in 2016, and he was the main guy behind the dominant Chino Hill squad that is widely considered as one of the best high school teams of all time. With this success on the court led to him to have all the notoriety in the world along with his brothers, and with LeVar Ball being the mastermind of using his kids' talent to market themselves along with his antics on the media, they became the most famous basketball family we've ever seen. They have their own TV show, their own brand, their own shoes, all you can name of. Despite that, Zoe pretty much kept to himself and had a simple recruitment. He committed to UCLA early alongside his brothers, wanted to stay home and rebuild the Bruins' legacy. Lonzo Ball's lone season at UCLA is a case study in how a single player can transform a team's entire formula. He took a Bruins team that had gone 15-17 the previous year and turned them into a 31-5 powerhouse and the most efficient offense in the country. For a guy like me who looks at impact beyond the basic box score, Lonzo's UCLA run was his analytical masterpiece. In his freshman year, he averaged 15 points per game, 8 assists per game, 6 rebounds, 2 steals per game, and shot 41% from 3 on 5 attempts, and had an effective field goal percentage of a 67%, which ranks him in the 90th percentile of all point guards. With his 6'6" frame at point guard, along with his 6'9" wingspan, he was an elite rebounder for a guard. His ability to grab a defensive board and immediately launch a 50-foot outlet pass was his most translatable NBA skill, and he was a menace on defense as well, and obviously the best passer in his draft class. But he had a jump shot that is very concerning, along with bad free throw percentage as well. Despite that, people including Magic Johnson overhyped this guy as the next superstar and the guy that is eventually going to get his jersey retired, even though he's actually in the same vicinity as far as Jason Kidd, which is no offense to Jason Kidd. He's an all-time great point guard within his own right, but people were comparing Lonzo Ball to Magic Johnson and Steph Curry, in which created all that unnecessary pressure on Lonzo Ball. Anyway, Zoe would get drafted second overall by the Lakers, and going into that year's Summer League, he was the most marketable rookie the league has ever seen. TV ratings for Summer League games, usually a niche event, skyrocketed to regular season levels. Lonzo became the youngest player to ever record a triple-double in Summer League history. He won Summer League MVP, and from the looks of it, the hype is real. That until he steps his foot on an actual NBA regular season game. In the first couple of games of his rookie year, it was rough for him, even though he is already one of the better rebounding and playmaking guards in the league. But he was just horrifically putrid from outside the arc and just overall field goal percentages. And despite his second game where he put up a 29, 11, and 9 game where he almost had a triple-double, he had 4 games worth single digits and never shot above 40% in either of them. And from that, you can tell that this is going to be a long rookie season for Lonzo. So much so that the whole discourse started calling him a bust and a disappointment. But looking at his rookie year from 2020 lens, you can actually make the claim that Lonzo Ball was a top 5 rookie in his draft class because of how impactful he was on both sides of the ball if we just look beyond the stat sheet. Zoe finished the season with 10, 7, and 7 with 2 steals, and despite his bad shooting splits, he became the youngest player in NBA history at the time to record a triple-double, surpassing LeBron James. When he's on the floor, the Lakers were a much better team on both ends, with Lonzo there were 24 and 28, which is almost a 500 record compared to him off the floor. He was also an immediate high-level defender. He ranked in the 90th percentile for point guards and block percentage and elite in deflections. The Lakers' defensive rating plummeted whenever he was sidelined. He single-handedly increased the Lakers' pace. His head passes meant the Lakers spent more time in transition, where they were efficient, and less time in stagnant half-court sets, where they weren't. Also, an important thing to note is his injuries history during that year. He missed 30 games due to a left shoulder sprain and persistent soreness in his left knee, which are signs that are to come later in the future. Despite the injuries and the shooting percentages, his overall impact was so undeniable that he was named to an NBA All-Rookie second team. Now, during the 2018 offseason, it was actually revealed that Lonzo actually had a torn meniscus, in which, like I said, these are the signs to come later in his career. He underwent a successful arthroscopic procedure on July 17th to repair the tear, and from there, he spent the offseason working on his jump shot and putting on muscle. But the most important thing in that offseason is, of course, LeBron signing with the Lakers in 2018, and that also led to Zoe having trade rumors getting Kawhi to LA or PG before he got traded to OKC. There was an ongoing dilemma between the young core of Ingram, Hart, Kuzma, and of course Ball, which are the signs to come in the following year, but the Lakers remain their young core for the 2019 season despite adding LeBron on the roster. In Lonzo's second year, you can just tell that the Lakers are now pushing for more of a win-now situation now, having Braun on your roster, who's the best player in the league during that time, and also adding Rajon Rondo in the mix didn't help Ball's development either. Despite that, the Lakers were in the 4th seed in the West, and they were getting themselves close to title conversations because of how good Lonzo was on defense. But it went all crashing down when Braun suffered a groin injury against the Warriors in Christmas Day. During the month of January, Lonzo was playing one of the best basketball of his career, averaging 11, 7, and 6 on 36% from 3 while playing stifling defense at the same time. But a season-ending injury from an ankle sprain kept him sidelined for the remainder of the year, and the Lakers missed the playoffs. After Lonzo's injury, the Lakers realized that Lonzo is no longer in their long-term interest and completely given up on him in just 2 seasons, especially when you have an injury-prone history along with a peak AD in the trade market. So the Lakers decided to make the blockbuster move by trading Lonzo along with Brandon Ingram and Josh Hart, along with multiple first-round picks to the New Orleans Pelicans in exchange for Anthony Davis. Now for Lonzo, this was truly a clean slate for him because he now joins a rebuilding team where there's no pressure for him to produce right away. This is the perfect situation for him to continue to develop as a player, especially having Zion in the same core as you. It definitely helps a lot. For December 2019 until the league shut down in March 2020, Lonzo was playing all-star caliber basketball. Over 45 games, he averaged 13 points, 7 rebounds, and assists. Obviously, the Pelicans did not make the playoffs, but him and Zion was looked upon as the next 1-2 punch in the NBA. And then during the lockout COVID season in 21, Lonzo continued to get better and better. That season, he averaged 15.7 rebounds and assists, and his shooting continued to get better along with his shooting form to the point where he drains 37% of his threes on 3 attempts per game and improved his free throw shooting to 78%. Lonzo at one point was as bad as non-shooting big man in regards to shooting free throws. I mean, he was shooting 41% from the free throw line. I mean, it was putrid. but he went from that to nearly an 80% free throw shooter, which is remarkable. And he became a good enough threat on 3 levels. Of course, his court vision along with his IQ is still intact, and on the defensive side of the ball, this was arguably the best defensive season of his career outside of the Bulls, of course. He's one of the few point guards who can legitimately guard 1 through 4. He became the perfect 3-and-D point guard, a rare archetype that every team in the league wanted. It's why the Bulls gave him that $80 million contract immediately afterward. There were legit talks of him becoming an all-star later in his career, and it's rightfully deserved. I still don't get how the Pelicans team didn't give him a bigger contract to stay with New Orleans, and they didn't even get anything from him and let him walk in free agency. Guys, I'm going to do a whole video on the New Orleans Pelicans regarding their failed rebuild. Y'all stay tuned for that. But going back to Lonzo Ball, the Chicago Bulls made aggressive moves to make it to the postseason since 2017 and added more pieces around Zach LaVine back in 21. They aggressively traded for Nikola Vucevic. They signed and traded for DeMar DeRozan, and they signed Alex Caruso and eventually signed Zoe with a 4-year, $80 million deal. After all these moves, the Bulls were viewed as the most improved team in the NBA, and they even got to the point where we started looking at them as championship contenders. At one point, they had a 27-13 record going into January of that season and were the first seed in the East. Lonzo Ball may not be the best player on that team, but he was the main engine on both ends of the ball. Him and Caruso was the best defensive duo in the NBA. Ball is now considered one of the best shooters in the NBA, shooting 42% from 3 on 7 attempts while creating efficient looks for his teammates. The big three of DeRozan, LaVine, and Vucevic had massive lanes to operate in the half court. Everything was working for the Bulls in their favor, but everything started crashing down when Lonzo Ball's knee, that same knee came back biting him once again. The season was the one that truly changed the trajectory of his career. This game specifically against the Warriors, the same team that won the whole thing, where Lonzo had a small meniscus tear and was out for the remainder of the game. After the initial surgery in January, Lonzo attempted to ramp up for the playoffs, but he could not run or jump without sharp pain. This 6-3 recovery turned into a season-ending injury. During that offseason, Lonzo underwent again arthroscopic surgery on his knee. Even after the second surgery, it got so bad that he could not walk up a flight of stairs or run without pain. Doctors were just baffled because the scans looked clean, but the physical reality was that the formula of his knee was just structurally compromised. Now, almost a year later, it became abundantly clear that regular surgery wouldn't work on Lonzo's knee, and now he will need to undergo a cartilage and meniscus transplant because his knee was to the point where it was bone-on-bone contact. By the way, it is a rare procedure for an NBA player and involved using a donor tissue to rebuild the joint surface. Like, no player had ever successfully returned to a high level after this specific transplant. Now, this surgery forced him to miss the entire 24 season as well. The tragic part of this timeline is that Lonzo's knee issues were likely cumulative. He revealed in his podcast that his knee problems actually dated back to his 2018 meniscus tear with the Lakers. Like I told y'all earlier in the video, there were the signs that eventually going to come, and that right here is the thick of it. By the time he played for the Bulls, his knees were just a ticking time bomb. Now, last season, he officially came back in the preseason game and proceeded to play 35 games for the Bulls, but you can just tell that him not playing basketball for 3 years straight, it took a permanent toll in his game. His jumper is no longer hitting no more. He doesn't have the same quickness and first step anymore. He doesn't have the same athleticism. I mean, everything has been struck down for Lonzo Ball last season. Now, last offseason, he became a free agent and signed with the Cavs on a minimum deal, and his poor play will continue on to the point where Jalen Tyson and Craig Porter started getting more minutes over him, and he was just no longer good enough to be an NBA player anymore. The Cavs realized this, and so they traded him to the Utah Jazz in a 3-team trade, and the Jazz immediately waived him and now currently a free agent. But it looks like no team is willing to give this man a contract. So Lonzo Ball's story is the ultimate tragedy of a perfect system fit player whose career was dismantled by structural failure. The story of Lonzo Ball is the ultimate what if about a player whose body failed him just as he perfected his game. he became a global celebrity at Chino Hills, where he led an undefeated team to a national title while averaging a triple-double and launching a family brand that promised he will be better than Steph Curry, even though he ended up not. He lived up to that hype at UCLA, transforming a losing program into the nation's best offense and becoming the second overall pick for his hometown, the LA Lakers. But in LA, the Magic Johnson expectations and his tense media pressure collided with the first sign of his physical fragility. He showed elite vision and defense, but his broken shooting form and constant injuries made him a target for critics. Just as he finally fixed his shot and became the engine of the #1 seeded Bulls back in 22, a series of catastrophic knee injuries cost him 3 full years of his prime. And by April of this year, despite trying to make a miracle comeback attempt, the lateral quickness that made him special is gone, leaving a brilliant basketball mind without a team. And this is the sad, tragic career of Lonzo Ball. His career leaves a what if. What if he was drafted to a team where he has time to develop and more patient with him? What if the New Orleans Pelicans gave him the contract that he deserved? How good the Pelicans will be with Lonzo long term? And most importantly, how much would the Bulls accomplish if Lonzo Ball was healthy for these 3 seasons? That remains untold. And that's the end of the video. Let me know on Lonzo Ball. Does he have one of the saddest careers in recent memory? Like I said, let me know, and be sure to subscribe to the channel for more NBA content and turn on post notifications. And that is all. Stay litty. This is the A-Man Show. Signing out.